Welcome to the initial configuration video of the Drivve version 5 technical training. In this video we're going to go through the walkthrough that Drivve has when you first install it on a print server. So one of the nice things about Drivve version 5 is that it'll actually walk you through the setup here and help you get everything set up in the right order before you start. So it's made to be so simple that maybe even a customer with no prior experience could walk through and set everything up. But we'll give you a little idea for some of the more advanced functions here and what to look out for. So the first page that you'll see after you log in as that Change Me account is the license page. And it'll show you your network adapters here that are available. And you can either upload a WLK file, which is a license file that we will send out to you, or you can paste in a license ticket there. Now the way that Drivve version 5 licenses work is that they're tied to the physical network adapter. So we will need to know the MAC address of the network adapter before we can create the license. So here I've got one that was sent to me. Let's see, I think I store it in the Drivve folder. And there we go, it's a WLK file. And I'm just going to browse to it and upload it. And if there's any error there, it'll tell you that that license is not valid. If it works, it'll just immediately take you into the next page. And you'll see here that because I activated a demo license, I'll have a demo version up there. So there's no real limitation in the functionality for NFR or a demo license, except for that it just alerts you that it's a demo on the Drivve server. So here in this first page, I can change a couple of things like the server ID. This is obviously just going to take the name of the server, unless you wanted to give it a more usable ID there that maybe other people would recognize. But again, that's just the name of this computer itself. Here I've got my super user password, which is Change Me, or you can change it there to whatever you want. You can see that also you can prohibit super user access from the network, which means that someone must be logged on to this physical server itself in order to log in as that super user account. That's typically very helpful if we're going to make users log in with their Active Directory credentials to control who's an admin and who's not. So there's some extra options here. You can set the working hours. You can set a contact for this installation. You could also change the path if there are any advanced print server settings here, like the EMF or CSR settings. If I hit next, I'll be able to set the currency here, which in my case is dollars. You can also check to make sure that it's doing the right amount of digits. Down below, I would recommend this, maybe not in a demo environment, but in a customer environment, to enable email notifications. This means that if any of the services go down, or maybe there are some issues with some of the printers that are serious issues, it'll send emails to the admin. And you can configure later what kind of things warrant an email or not, so you're not sending a lot of spam. We'll cover that in a later video. But you can always set this up later, but it's always a good idea while you're walking through it with a customer to set up that SMTP server. This is also here for the desktop notifications. Drivve version 5 uses Microsoft Messaging Service to let users know when a rule has been applied and their print job has been rerouted or canceled. And in this case, we install a service here, which is already installed and actually just disabled, which Drivve uses to send those messages down to users' workstations. We'll cover that later, but here's where you can set it up, and you can also set it up again later. So here, this page is where we can check the database configuration. You see here that it's already going to use a built-in SQL Express instance that was created. But you could also browse out to the network and find a SQL server that already exists. And you can actually create that database remotely here from the Drivve application. So as long as you have a local SQL account, you can actually reach out from here and create a new Drivve database on their existing SQL server without having to actually log on to that SQL server at all, which is convenient. But in our case here, it was already created for us during the install. All we want to do is check that database there. Let's see, I guess I'm using Chrome. Maybe it got a pop-up blocker. But there we go. So just check that database and it'll let you know if everything's configured properly. and then after that I can save it and move on to the next page. So you'll see here that Drivve is finding automatically that this server is tied to the domain. You see that's my base DN, and actually this happens to be the domain controller. But really in this case, you should not have to do anything here at all. As long as your print server is tied to the domain, Drivve will run as a local system account, and in most cases we don't need to specify a login in order to make those requests. If I just hit register, in most cases it'll work. Now, if it doesn't work, you can always go back into the user section and specify a user that you want to make those LDAP requests as, or specify a server. But if you don't know that information, most of the time, like I said, you can just hit register and it'll use the local system account, as long as this print server is on the domain. So here I've got a couple options here. This first one is just how long we want to store the document in the queue. So in this case, I'll say, for instance, 3 days. So if a job is not released within 3 days, it'll delete it. We can also add some functions here for archiving. So fast reprint would be, for instance, for a user to go back in and reprint their jobs. Or also permanent archiving for admins to be able to audit what has been printed. We can actually keep those jobs on the hard drive and make them available to the admin for a set amount of time. You'll see here that it's also set up to create the guest users database and the templates for the MFPs automatically. So really all you have to do is hit save here, and I am already done with the initial configuration. So it's immediately going to bring me in here to start configuring the printers, and we will cover that in the next video.